Hello everybody and welcome to Edshed. Today we are taking a look at Guild Wars 2 PVP build. This one is the Power Shiro build and this is for the Revenant. It's a Herald variation, so you're obviously going to need the Herald specialization, but we'll cover the specializations in a little bit. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, to like and subscribe, and there is always more of these on a Monday. So yeah, keep it tuned for them. We'll start by taking a look at the weapons that can be used, and the two weapons that you've got is the sword and shield and the staff. Both of these are very useful because they're good at damage dealing, and this is a very sort of damage dealing type class. And they're also very good because they have a lot of damage mitigation abilities, you know, stuff that will block, things that will blind, and these can be very useful for if you're in a particularly tight spot, just getting out of there and also keeping yourself alive when there's a lot of damage going on around you. I do really like that about this build because whilst it is a direct damage build, it's got much more survivability than you'd expect with a build centered around this. It's certainly got a lot more survivability than the likes of a thief, and that's partly due because of the heavy armor and also partly due to the wide variety of healing skills that you have on offer. Some of the key skills for the sword and shield that you'll be using is the unrelenting assault, where you'll shadow step towards and release a terrifying attack on your enemy, or whatever the hell it says. But basically, as you will shadow step to them and you will do a lot of damage, and this is one of your key damage dealing abilities when it comes to the sword and shield. You've then got on number 4, the Envoy of Exuberance. I've definitely said that word wrong, but it's the number 4 ability, and it provides protection as well as healing, and it is one that is AoE and ground targeted, so you can apply it to both yourself and your allies around you, and is very useful because it does a significant amount of healing. You know, it's something to it really gives even the Guardian sort of healing abilities a run for their money. You've then also got the Crystal Hibernation, and this will heal you for sort of multiple pulses, as well as blocking attacks on you. So, you know, getting down in Crystal Hibernation will give you a real nice chance to regain some health, as well as mitigate any attacks that are coming towards you. And you can sort of couple this with waiting for the cooldowns on your other healing abilities, which gives you also that added benefit and flexibility. The staff, you've got the Warding Rift, which will blind enemies, which is very good for sort of mitigating damage. You have also got the Surge of the Mists, which will knock back enemies in your path, which is great for just getting through the middle of them. It also deals a tremendous amount of damage, and it will provide you the Evade whilst you're actually casting that, so that's great for even running away, but make sure that you're not targeting anything when you use it to run away, otherwise you're just going to run straight back into a fight, which is something that has happened to me a few times. Now we will take a look at the utility skills, and these will take a little bit longer than usual because in effect we've got 2 lots of utility skills to cover. So you've got the Legendary Assassin stance for one. This gives you a healing skill called Enchanted Daggers. Now, in my opinion, it's best to use this and then couple it with Unrelenting Assault or Surge of the Mists, because it only heals you when you're attacking, in effect. Each time you attack, you use up one of the healing crystals, in effect. So if you, as I say, do couple that with, in particular, Unrelenting Assault, it works very efficiently. You've then got Reposing Shadow, which will evade backwards, and it also provides you half a dodge roll's worth of endurance, so it's a great one to get you out of particularly sticky situations that you've found yourself in. You've then got a phase travel, which will it's basically a blink to your enemy as well as doing a small amount of damage. It's more useful for mobility than actual damage dealing, but something that you can use to, as I say, move around the battlefield a bit quicker. Impossible Odds is a great skill. I do like it. Just be careful not to leave it on when you don't need it. It will provide you a lot of quickness and a lot of super speed. So it can be used for the mobility purposes of moving around the battlefield, as well as dealing a lot of damage to the enemies when you're up close and personal, but you've perhaps only got auto attacks left. You can also use it for running down enemies, which is a worthwhile use of it, I find. You've got Jade Winds as well. And this ties in, I suppose, with running down enemies and crowd control, because this will freeze all of your enemies, or it will turn them into Jade, which is a stun, and it's quite a short duration. It's only 3 seconds stun, but if your class-specific energy, I can't even remember what it's called for Revenants, if that's full and you cast it twice, you could in effect cast this twice, one after another. Giving a total of 6 seconds of stun if you've got the energy to do so. Now, the utility skills for the legendary dragon stance, you've got the Facet of Light, which is your healing skill, which will provide you regeneration whilst it's triggered, or whilst it's on, I should say. And then you can also trigger it for, sort of a great healing, which will also convert damage that's being dealt to you into more healing. You've got the Facet of Darkness, Facet of Elemency, and Facet of Strength. In the same order that I said them, one gives you Fury, one gives you Swiftness, and one gives you Might. And then they can also all be triggered in sort of a chain event, in effect, to deal damage and also to buff you. Really and truly, the legendary dragon stance, having them on is more important than triggering them. You're only really triggering them if you're in particularly sticky situations, and I'm conscious of time on this video, so you can obviously have a play around with whether or not you want to be triggering them yourself. Now you've got Facet of Chaos on the end. Now this one is one that you will sort of want to use to provide you protection, but you won't want to leave it running, and then you'll actually be triggering this one more than you'll be just leaving it running, as I say. And the trigger effect of it is you will blow enemies back, as well as also providing a buff to your own mobility skills. We will just quickly run through the specializations. So you've got Devastation, Invocation, and Herald. Now, one of the things that you can swap out here is you can swap out Invocation for Retribution to provide yourself a more tanky and defensive build. The actual specs of how these are laid out and how you would you'd go about setting them up can be found in a description below to metabattles.com, which is a great site full of lots of PvP builds, so please do check that out and also find out how to, spec this particular class. The amulet that you've got is the Marauder's Amulet. You can swap this out for the Paladin's Amulet to be a bit more tanky again, but the Marauder's Amulet, I feel, with the added vitality, is it gives you enough survivability anyway. You've got a lot of survivability in this class anyway, so long as you're using your skills correctly. The rune that we've got is the Rune of Leadership, so this will boost all of your stats, and as well as your boon duration. So this is yeah, that ties in very nicely, because the end one of the Rune of Leadership is that your boon duration, when you use the elite skill, converts up to 2 conditions into boons on all nearby allies, and you have an opportunity to use your elite skill an awful lot, so it all has really nice synergy there. So it's worth popping your elite skill quite often, especially when you're in assassin stance, because there's no real cooldown time on it. It's just a question of, do you have enough energy to do it? So just looking at a few tips and tricks, I've already mentioned that when you use your Enchanted Daggers healing skill on your assassin one, you'll want to use Unrelenting Assault. Unrelenting Assault in general is best for 1v1s, but it is good at giving yourself some evadance, which can be used to buff your survivability in sort of group fights. Now, one thing that you should know is that if somebody goes stealth whilst you're using this, then that will cancel it. So the chain skill on the Facet of Darkness will actually apply revealed to an enemy. So if you're up against a thief, it's quite a good idea to cast that on them first. The other, I would say, key thing to sort of be using is the chaotic release. The launch back on it is fantastic, and if you are positioned correctly, you can send enemies flying off the edge of cliffs, etc., which is great. And environmental kills, as cheap as they are, you know, easy. And you know, you don't have to get stuck in long battles. If you can just send somebody over the edge, why not? The other thing is the self-sustaining factor of this this particular build, and you've got the reposing shadow, which I already mentioned, gives you half a dodge roll when you use it, and also functions as a dodge roll backwards. You've also got the surge of the mists and the ward rift. I've covered them when I was talking about the weapons, but I feel it's worth mentioning again because having that self-sustainability here is really useful for this class, and is one of the things that makes it work as well as it does. The Facet of Light as well, which is your healing skill when you're in Dragon Stance, is worth using or worth having on for as long as possible. You don't want to be trying to trigger it when you're in the middle of a battle and then try and trigger the end ability of it, which will convert damage into health whilst it's triggering. You want to already have it primed and ready to go as soon as you need it, because if you get sort of CC'd, you may not be able to use the Facet of Light as well as the chain skill, so you're going to, as I say, want to have it armed and ready to go at a moment's notice. It's got a very short sort of cooldown on it, and you can, I'm pretty sure you can clear them completely by swapping between your two different stances. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do like and subscribe, and as I say, there's more videos like this every Monday, so I will see you then, hopefully.